Okay, so we're going to talk to you about Let's Talk Cancer. So this is a project that started back in 2019. We launched Let's Talk Cancer on the back of our 2018 National Cancer Patient Experience Survey results. For those that work within the cancer field will know that we always wait slightly tentatively to see what these results will produce, and 2018 for the Royal Free was a very bad year and had been previously to that, and we actually scored pretty dreadfully, and in the overall national league charts we were really quite low at the bottom, pretty much at the bottom. So we thought, what are we going to do about this? So as part of my role, I took on the role of leading this project. So what we did initially is looked at our results. We looked at where we were scoring particularly badly, and then we did some thematic reviews of that. And actually what transpired is that most of the poor feedback was a result of poor communication in some way. So it may be from the specialist staff, it may be from the staff generally on the wards that are non-cancer specialists. So what we wanted to do was come up with we came up with themes, and we wanted to develop something around that. So what we initially did was held some focus groups for patients and asked for volunteers to come forward, and we spent quite a lot of time with them pulling out the wording of how we were going to shape this project. So I'll show you the 6 themes in a minute, but as part of that we actually used the patient's word to develop that. And then we're also going to touch on the top 10 tips that we developed for patients on the back of that, and also about our interactive online training module. And as part of this work, we've done this alongside a strategy that we developed for cancer patient experience. So these were just a few of our people that came as part of our focus groups. They're not particularly representative. They're not a very diverse panel, looking at that picture. Our panel was a little bit more diverse, but these were people that were happy to be photographed as part of that work. So we started to develop our themes, and these are the 6 themes that came out. So those of you that are familiar with the survey will notice that things like introduce ourselves. There's a question, did your healthcare professional introduce themselves to you? We'll ask what matters to you, providing you with a named contact when you leave the hospital. So these are responses to direct questions. What you'll also notice when you look at this is, although we're talking about cancer here, that actually all of this is absolutely relevant for every specialty across the hospital. So this isn't, we're looking at cancer, but it's relevant for everything. So these were our 6 themes that we came up with. Our next step was to think, how are we going to get this out there? How are we going to spread this word across the trustees? This is what we need to do to improve our experience. We need to recognise that everybody needs to make changes. So one of the things we did when we launched this project was we developed these cards to go on lanyards, and on both sides of that it has our 6 themes. And then we had a really big launch across the trust. So we launched it on our Freenet, which is our internal internet, and we launched it in the staff canteens. We launched it, we had a big cancer away day, for multidisciplinary away day for another purpose, but we were also able to launch it there as well. So this is just one of the things from within our launch across in the canteen, that one. And this was our chief executives, so our trust and also our group chief executives. So one of the key things about this whole project was really being able to get the executive team behind us. Everybody was quite disappointed with our scores from the survey. We all wanted to see improvements, but it was really key to get key people behind us, because otherwise it's a very, very uphill battle. But we had really great engagement from our chief executives. We also had a big patient engagement event when we celebrated World Cancer Day back in 2019. 2019. And again, we launched it there. So that was a room full of patients. We had about 100 patients at that event. And it was really to celebrate, we used it as a day to celebrate things that we were doing at the Royal Free to improve our services for patients. So we launched it there. So we have patients involved with that. Our 10 top tips. So again, if you are fairly familiar with the Cancer Patient Survey, you will recognise that a lot of these tips are specifically been built around questions that we ask our patients. You know, you can bring a family member or friend with you to your appointments. We all know that. It's been more difficult over the past couple of years, but we all know that in principle. But, you know, you'd be surprised the amount of people that don't bring somebody with them. And then they'll say, I didn't know I could bring somebody with me. And now I'm going to hand you to Azmina to talk about our training module, which was our next thing we developed.
Thank you, Kerry. So obviously, having produced the 10 top tips for patients with patients and having come up with these 6 principles for better communications and behaviours, the next thing that Kerry and I wanted to do was to really bring this to life. And that was how we came about with this idea of an online interactive training module for staff, not just staff who work directly with cancer patients in cancer wards or on chemotherapy units, but any staff within the hospital who might come into contact with a cancer patient, be that someone who's in an admin role, a porter, literally anybody. And so our thinking when we created this module was to make sure that it was accessible to all staff groups and also that it was really short. So this module takes our staff members between 10 and 15 minutes to complete. And all of you who are NHS-based know how much time we spend doing our online mandatory training, like our fire safety and our information governance. And we knew that if we kept it any longer than 10 or 15 minutes, staff would just not have the time to complete it, even with the best will in the world. So our interactive module is built around a character who is based on one of our real breast cancer patients, whose name is Ugochi. She's a North African lady. And if the audio is going to work, we are just going to play you a little clip of the first part of her interaction with the hospital.
I'm so cross. Who on earth do these hospital people think they are? Barely acknowledging my existence, talking over me, giving me no time to think. You'd think they'd have just a little bit of understanding of what I'm going through. They were telling me about my cancer test results, for goodness sakes. I wish I could have taken someone with me. What a disappointing, miserable nightmare. I feel traumatized. I can't even remember what I have to do next. Have they just written me off already? I don't think I can do this if it's like that all the way through. Oh, where are my manners? I'm just as bad as them. I'm Ugochi. Ugochi no Wachukweyu, by the way.
So that was just the introduction to the module. It then goes on to take learners through 2 scenarios, one where the clinic appointment was a real disappointment to our patient, and one where the staff members who interacted with her displayed much better communications and behaviours and was therefore more satisfactory. So it finishes with a downloadable summary that all our learners can then take away and keep with them, which summarises the 6 key principles, and it also gives the flip side, which is what happens if in our hurry, when we're really, really busy and pressed for time, we actually forget to demonstrate our best practice behaviours. So this is just a snapshot of the downloadable summary that our learners get at the end of their module, along with their certificate. And we will finally just share with you some of the feedback that our learners have given us, which has essentially been universally favourable. People have really appreciated the brevity of the module, but they felt that it really helped them to see things from a patient's perspective. And some of the earlier presentations this morning have touched on that as well. Just the level of confusion that the patients feel when they're brand new to a hospital building, and the signs in the hospital are every bit as confusing as the signs on this particular hospital campus. So that's some of the feedback that we've had. As Kerry mentioned earlier, it does fit into our broader strategy about cancer patient experience. Hopefully that might be the subject of a submission for a future Penner Award if you would ever consider having us back, Ruth. So thank you very much.